Qusayr city. Israel has in the last 2 months stepped up its strikes on suspected Iranian targets inside of Syria. The Lebanese Council of Ministers has extended the period of general mobilization in the country to July 5th, following a recommendation by the Lebanese Supreme Council of Defense. The decision comes 2 days before the demonstration planned by the civil movement on Saturday, resuming anti-government protests that erupted in the country on October 17. Meanwhile, lawyers from the civil movement filed a case against outspoken parliamentarian Sayed for calling for the killing of protesters. Italy's first Islamic cemetery may soon be built on a green space a few kilometers north of Rome. Uriel Place, to be built on a 400-hectare area, will be the first cemetery dedicated to Muslims in a country where Islam is the second largest religion. Batuku Dumacato, president of the Dumacato Bengali Community Association in Rome, told Italian media that the cemetery could hold up to 16,000 plots. State-backed hackers from China have targeted staffers working on the U.S. presidential campaign of Democrat Joe Biden, an official said, adding Iranian hackers had already recently targeted email accounts belonging to Republican President Donald Trump's campaign staff. The announcement, made on Twitter by the head of Google's threat analysis group, Shane Huntley, is the latest indication of a digital spying routinely aimed at top politicians. Huntley said there was no sign of compromise of either campaign. U.S. civil rights activist Al Sharpton led a memorial service in Minneapolis for George Floyd, the African-American man whose harrowing videotaped death while being arrested has unleashed sweeping nationwide protests for racial justice. 3 of the 4 Minneapolis police officers who arrested Floyd on May 25th for allegedly passing a counterfeit bill were to make their first court appearance, meanwhile to face charges of aiding his murder. The 4th policeman, Derek Chauvin, who was filmed kneeling on Floyd's neck for nearly 9 minutes as he said, "I cannot breathe," has been charged with second-degree murder and appeared before a judge last week. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said face coverings will be compulsory for passengers on buses, trains, aircraft and ferries in England from June 15th. As of Monday, 15th of June, face coverings will become mandatory on public transport, he told the daily COVID-19 news conference. That does not mean surgical masks, which we must keep for clinical settings. It means the kind of face covering you can easily make at home. The evidence suggests that wearing face coverings offers some, albeit limited, protection against the spread of the virus. The Kuwaiti government said it wants to cut the migrant proportion of its population from 70 to 30% to address what it called a population discrepancy. State media quoted the country's prime minister saying that the state of Kuwait was facing a big challenge in its population structure and that it shall start relying on its citizens to replace foreign workers. His Highness Sheikh Sabah Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the prime minister, said out of 4.8 million inhabitants, some 3.3 million are foreign nationals and 1.45 million are Kuwaitis. Kuwait is preparing for spending cuts as it seeks to counter the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on its economy. His Highness Sheikh Sabah Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, underlining the need for austerity measures in order to overcome the current economic conditions facing the country, called on all authorities to cooperate with the government's move and face this difficult phase with the least damage possible. The Kuwaiti Premier made the remarks while chairing a virtual cabinet meeting to discuss measures to address the effects of coronavirus. Greece geared up to revive its tourism-dependent economy, which shrank in the first quarter owing to measures against the coronavirus, the Eurostat data agency said. Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis is to headline an event later in the day to unveil a national tourism campaign for the virus-shortened season. He has already warned the country that the economy would fall into a deep recession this year before rebounding in 2021. The boss of British Airways said its parent company IAG was burning through $223 million a week and could not guarantee its survival, prompting him to urge unions to engage over 12,000 job cuts. British Airways came under heavy attack from lawmakers in Parliament on Wednesday, who accused it of taking advantage of a government scheme to protect jobs, while at the same time announcing plans to cut its workforce by 28%. Planes were grounded in March due to coronavirus restrictions, forcing many airlines to cut thousands of staff as they struggle without revenues. Airlines serving Britain now face an additional threat from a 14-day quarantine rule. South Korean prosecutors have requested an arrest warrant against Samsung Group hire J.Y. Lee, they said on Thursday, in the investigation of a controversial 2015 merger and alleged accounting fraud in a suspected bid to aid his succession plans. The move spells fresh trouble for Lee, who, if arrested, faces a return to jail just little over 2 years after being released from detention in February of 2018. Lee already faces trial on a charge of bribery aimed at winning support to succeed ailing Group patriarch Lee Kun-hee, and which involved former President Park Geun-hye, and spent a year in detention until the bribery case was suspended in 2018. The United Arab Emirates government on Wednesday raised to 50% the capacity level of staff at all ministries and federal authorities effective Sunday, June 7. In an announcement carried by state news agency WAM, the government said the decision follows the successful return of federal staff by 30% last week. The move is part of the efforts to restore normalcy of government work and the gradual return of employees and services. Mourners at George Floyd's memorial service are standing for 8 minutes 46 seconds, a span that has become a potent symbol of police brutality. The Rev. Al Sharpton exhorted Floyd's family, civil rights leaders, politicians, athletes and celebrities at the service on Thursday to stand as a commitment to justice in Floyd's name. Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, who died in police custody in New York City in 2014, stood on stage with Sharpton and comedian Tiffany Haddish. Tens of thousands of demonstrators in Hong Kong have defied a ban to stage a mass vigil for the victims of the 1989 Tiananmen Square crackdown in Beijing. Officers erected barricades around the city's Victoria Park, but some pro-democracy protesters knocked them down and held candlelight gatherings. Police banned the vigil this year, citing coronavirus measures. Earlier, lawmakers approved a controversial bill making it a crime to insult China's national anthem.